Right guys, this is episode 12 on my quest to 1 billion wild gold, and this one is the one I've been looking forward to making. We're going to be going into more detail and talking about the Korthia Shoulders transmog project that I started around a year ago. I'll quickly recap about the project and then I have all the data from doing this for a full year so you can see for yourself exactly how profitable this can be, but first let's just quickly have a look at what I've been up to in the last week. On the 7-day dashboard, we're running at just over 9.2 million gold profit for the last week. This is higher than usual. We usually hover around the 6 to 7 million gold profit for a week, but we have had season 4 kick off this week, which has likely helped a little bit with sales. The construct shoulder plates, more sworn enforcer shoulders, etc. 10 of my top 20 sellers this week, which accounts for around 4.4 million gold of that weekly profit, are all from that Korthia transmog shoulders that we are going to go into more detail with about today. Other things of note this week, a Blackrock Bulwark at 1 million gold is a solid sale. This is a premium transmog and I've noticed a real upsurge in sales of those recently as well. Fell Steel Longblade, some of the most sought after crafted transmog in the game. I sold a couple of those for 184k. I think I paid 400k for those blacksmithing plans about 6 months ago, and that has paid for itself a couple of times over by now. That inscription technique that I've sold is a super rare one that they don't have on a lot of servers. My plan was either to sell these for a super high price or to get these on a server where I could be the only crafter and just produce them myself. With glyphs going region wide soon, the scarcity on this glyph was going away. Even though the pattern is rare, I just thought it would lose a lot of its value. Therefore I dropped the price on these to 60k just to clear them out before that change came. On to purchases for the last 7 days. About halfway down you can see I bought 2 diamond tip canes at 10k each. More importantly, I sold one for 95k after the auction house cut. Whatever you think of the white transmog fad, the fact is that these are still selling at stupid prices. I sold these at 30k before the white transmog announcement, and now I'm getting sales at 100k. It's just crazy. Most of the other stuff on here is fairly routine. That is, except I have once again purchased a large amount of Zereth Mortis cloak transmog. I think that is 48 bits of transmog I've purchased in total in the past 7 days alone, which if you watched last week's episode was a similar amount I'd acquired in the previous 2 months. The reason I wanted to point this out is because I've stepped up my efforts in buying these, and it's got to a point now where it's like I was in the early stages of the Korthia transmog project, so eventually I could be getting similar results. Anyway, let's talk about that Korthia transmog project. There are 18 bits of shoulder transmog that you can get from Korthia that are bind on equip and can be sold on the auction house. 14 of these are much rarer and worth a lot more gold, so when I talk about the project I'm only usually referring to these 14 bits of premium transmog. The idea behind this project was to buy up a huge percentage of what was available of these across every EU and US server as cheap as possible to gain as much control as the market as possible. Once I had a huge market share, I was then going to push up prices to pretty much anywhere that I wanted. The problem you can have in WoW when you're trying to sell something too expensive, a lot of people can see region-wide prices, etc., and they're just not going to go for it. But if you push up the prices across the entire EU and US at the same time, then these values get accepted. Now, if you push up prices too high, then you will reach a point where people do stop buying. But with some trial and error over time, you can figure out where you need to be. So let's have a look at how much I manipulate these prices. This is the number for the more sworn enforcer shoulders, and it's the one I probably manipulate the most. We have EU on the top, US on the bottom. On the left we have the numbers from October 2021, and the right we have January 2022. You only want to be looking at numbers inside the red boxes, as those are the region-wide numbers. In the EU you can see the median price went from just under 62k to almost 200k. The region-wide mean went from 98k to 255k. Basically, on the EU side, I pretty much tripled the price on these shoulders across the whole region in the space of 3 months. On the US side, the region-wide median price went from 70k to 210k, whilst the mean price went from 212k to 322k. Not quite as dramatic as the change on the EU, but a massive effect on the price still. You see this throughout the project, that my effect on the US realms is not quite as strong as on the EU realms. That is because this time last year I had more limited resources on the US realms, as I had only been on there for about 6 months. Nowadays this will not be an issue at all. You can see other examples of this price hiking, but that is the basis of the project. Buy cheap, gain market control, push up the price, sell for profit. But does it actually work? Next, I'm going to show you the purchases and sales from all 14 premium Korthia transmog for the last 12 months since I started this project. This makes it easy to see how I've done with each individual piece so far, which have made profit or loss, and at the end we can pull all the numbers together into a super professional spreadsheet. The first thing you'll probably notice with these graphs is they are missing some of the graphics in the middle section. All of the data is included, it's just sometimes when you ask TSM Ledger for a huge amount of data, it can struggle a little bit. It took me absolutely ages just to get the graphs this good, and I couldn't waste any more time just to make them prettier. It's the numbers we're mostly after anyway. In the bottom right you can see I've purchased 153 of these over the past year for a total cost of 2.9 million gold. In that same amount of time I've made 49 sales for almost 9.2 million gold, and therefore I've made a profit of 6.2 million gold from this one item, and I still have 100 of these to sell. If I'd carried on selling them at current prices, then I'd end up making around 27 million gold in sales, or almost 10 times what I initially invested. Like I said earlier, the more Sworn Enforcer shoulders were probably the set that I inflated the value on by the most, mainly because I thought they looked good and would still sell even at the higher price. I picked up 173 of these for just under 2.5 million gold, and I've only sold 33 of these, but I've already made over 6.3 million gold in sales, and that's 3.8 million gold in profit. When I have eventually sold all of these off, we should clear 30 million gold in sales, which is well over 10 times my initial investment. Construct shoulder plates are probably the best looking set of Korthia transmog shoulders, and the set I was most eager to make sure I got complete control of the market for. That is why I have 239 purchases, and I've probably paid the highest average price on these, but I've also been selling them strongly as well. 46 sales at 7.2 million gold, or already running at 4 million gold profit, with 193 sets of shoulders still to sell. If I carried on selling these at current prices, then I would clear 40 million gold in sales and once again make around 10 times my initial investment. We're moving on to slightly cheaper ones now. Infiltrator shoulders, we have just 80 purchases at 638k, so we are averaging less than 8,000 gold per purchase. I have sold 30 for over 3 million gold, that's over 100k gold per sale after the auction house cut, and we're looking at return on investment around 13 times what I originally paid. Here we have another one that's similar to last, in which I've paid on average around 8k per transmog and sold for over 100k each. Once again, we're into the millions of gold in profit with still the majority of stock to sell. If this carried on, I'd probably end up making around 10 million gold from a 770k investment, which isn't too bad. But I've increased the price on this one more so than any other recently, and they've carried on selling, so it will probably be more than that. This is the ugliest Korthia transmog, and I can't believe people still buy it, but they do. It's taken nearly a full year just to get 26 sales, but they are still selling, and people are paying on average nearly 120k before the auction house cut. Even with the slow sales, I've almost tripled my initial investment, and I've sold less than 20% of my stock. Here we have another solid earner paying on average 7,400 gold each and selling at around 100k gold each. This is another one that I've increased the price on by about 50% recently, and it's still selling. It was already on track to make 13 times my initial investment, so with 100 of these left to sell, I should easily hit somewhere between 15 to 20 times that investment. There are 7 more of these to go through, but it's all pretty much the same stuff, so I'm just going to flick through them whilst I'm talking. We don't need to discuss them all. They're all pretty much the same story. I'm buying for somewhere between 6 to 8k gold each, selling for close to 100k. I'm in profit by around 2 to 4 times my initial investment, and the vast majority of my stock still to sell. What is probably more interesting is the overall numbers from the project after 1 year. How much does all this pay off? Right, I know I suck at Excel, this is not exactly Manfius level quality, but it's the numbers we're more interested in. The first 2 columns are the number of units bought and sold, so I have purchased 1,765 sets of shoulders and sold 464, or just over a quarter of my stock. The next 2 columns are the amount spent and total sales, so the entire project was an investment of 17.3 million gold, and I have made 51.8 million gold in sales. The last 2 columns in this section are probably the most important, showing my current stock, which is at 1,301 bits of premium Korthia transmog, and I'm currently running at 34.4 million gold profit. To outline my current situation then, I invested 17.3 million gold. I got all of that back plus 34.4 million gold in profit on top, and so far I've only sold around 25% of what I bought with that initial investment. The next 2 columns are what I used to judge how much I was taking control of the markets over time. The first column that totals 2,146, this is the total number of all of these shoulders that are on sale across the whole EU and US. The number to the right of this is the percentage of my stock versus this number. So if there was 100 across the whole EU and US for sale, and I had a stock of 50, then it would be 50%. This is by no means a perfect number, as what is on the auction house is not everything that's in the game, and additionally, my auctions are included in these EU and US totals. That being said, it was the best method I could use month by month to see how much my market share was changing. And it is interesting that now I've hit almost 100% on some of these now. Average sales price is what it says on the tin, the average I've sold these for over the last 12 months after the auction house cut. The last column, overall value, is just taking that average sales number and multiplying it by my current stock level to give a valuation of stock based on previous sales. Totaling this across everything values my stock at around 149.6 million gold, which would mean the project would hit around 185 million gold profit selling at the prices that I've been selling for the last 12 months. Now, if you've been really paying attention for the last few weeks, you may have noticed that the amount I've been selling these for recently is quite a bit above my average sales price for the last 12 months. These things are already getting rarer and rarer. We knew this would happen when the expansion ended and no one was in Korthia, but it's already happening. The Necromancer's Mantle, for example, there is now less than 100 of these available across the whole EU and US. For comparison purposes, the Blackrock Bulwark, that's the best transmog shield in the game that I sold for 1 million gold this week, there are nearly 200 of these available across the whole EU and US. Not only are they getting rarer, but everyone else has hiked their prices before me this time, probably because I haven't been paying much attention as I should while I've been away from YouTube the last couple of months. This is the listing for the Necromancer's Mantle across the whole EU, and most of my listings are in the red box. I used to be the one pushing up the price, and now you can see I'm actually probably holding it back a little bit. I just want to stress that I just increased the price on this particular item less than 2 weeks ago, and based on all the data I've looked through for this video, I'm probably going to increase the price on all of the Korthia transmog by about another 25%. The projected value on all the stock was at around 150 million gold. I think realistically it's going to sell for quite a bit more than that. We of course will see in time. I won't do another big update all about the Korthia transmog project for probably at least 6 months, but you'll be able to see the sales coming through every time I do an episode. Anyway guys, that's the Korthia transmog project and how much gold you can make with an investment project over a year if you do things right. Next time we're going to go back and look at the invasion of Russia that I did earlier in the year and see how those investments are paying off and seeing if any of them turn a profit yet. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you next time.